What is up, everyone? Pyzilla57 here with another monthly trophy update video. And I'm sorry that this is coming a little bit late. Part of it is just because I've been a little bit lazy, but then also a lot of it is because I've had a lot going on my plate, and I've been a little bit stressed because of some IRL stuff. But nonetheless, let's get started. So, if you guys have watched any of my other ones, you know how this works. If not, then I'm using my PSNP profile here, and I just went to the trophy log, and it just shows and lists all my trophies that I've earned in order from most recent to least recent. So basically I just go over the trophies and games that I played during the month. In this case, it'll be the month of April, and I just basically give some feedback and thoughts on the games I played and some of the trophies, if I had a tough time or have any tips on any of them. So let's get into it. If I'm remembering correctly, I think April is a pretty decent month for me in terms of trophies and completing games, but let's see. So we go down here. Alright, so the very last trophy I earned in April was scoring a headshot on an enemy using expert targeting mode from Red Dead Redemption, which wasn't hard to do at all. So yeah, I guess I ended the month playing Red Dead Redemption, and back in the last summer, in September and maybe parts of August, in my Discord server, a lot of us boosted the game and did all the multiplayer trophies. So since I want to say since September, sometime in September, I had all of the multiplayer and online trophies done. So all the multiplayer from all the DLC packs, the base game, all the co-op shit. So I had all that done, and all I had left was doing the Undead Nightmare DLC and the single player from the base game. So I finally decided to go back and do all of this, and I think Red Dead Redemption is severely overhyped, and I thought a lot of people really loved this game, and maybe for some reason that is the case, but also part of it might be because Red Dead Redemption 2 recently released, and there's been a whole bunch of hype about that, and it won a whole bunch of awards. So maybe the fact that Red Dead Redemption 2 did very well is kind of hazing my judgment, and thinking that Red Dead Redemption was received much better than it actually was. Maybe it wasn't received very well. This was a long time ago. This was my first time playing it, so I don't really know. But overall, I didn't really enjoy the game at all. I did finish earlier this month in May, but yeah, the single player, so obviously people play Rockstar games for the single player and the story because the controls are super shitty in every single Rockstar game. That just doesn't perform very well. So that is obviously cut out in terms of why people play Rockstar games. The online for this was super shitty and boring. There was nothing to do. And so gameplay or story-wise, this wasn't it wasn't completely terrible. There were a couple of highlights, but for the most part, it was subpar in my opinion. Most of it was super boring, and it was very drawn out, and it just dragged on and had super poor pacing in the story. So that's my take on it. And of course, it had some super shitty DLC also, like Undead Nightmare, one of very bad DLC. So overall, as a package, the game wasn't very good. The only thing I can really commend about it and compliment about it is the setting was pretty good. I did enjoy the Western setting, which was the main reason I did play this game. Part of it was because obviously it was, at least I thought it was pretty well received, so I thought I'd give it a try. I had a whole bunch of people doing the online stuff, so I figured I'll jump in on it, do the online stuff, and then experience the single player. And it was kind of a mistake because, like I said, I didn't really enjoy it. But So going through the trophies here, nothing really stands out in terms of the trophies. I guess this last one here, Spur to Victory. This is the only missable trophy in the game, and you just have to complete 20 story missions without switching to a new horse at a hitching post, which is really easy to do. You start out with the horse, but I think like in the second or so mission, you automatically switch to a different one, and you just have to play through 20 story missions with the same horse. And there are a few points in the story where like you have to break a horse or ride a different horse, but as long as you don't hitch it at a post, then it won't be yours. And if you whistle for your horse, then the previous horse will come back to you, which is nice. And there's 57 story missions, so it's super easy to get. And I had the same horse, I think, pretty much for at least 50 of those missions, I think. So it's nothing really to worry about. And then here's the very first story mission trophy from the very first mission in the game. So then I played Deadpool. Well, I started Deadpool a couple years ago, probably 3 years ago now, and I just had like 9 or 10 trophies left, and I finally went back to it and beat it. As you can see here, I did get the platinum, and I'm a big Deadpool fan. It's my favorite Marvel character, but the game overall was a tad disappointing. It had some great humor, which is definitely the high point of it. Like, I definitely laughed and enjoyed a lot of the humor, and right up Deadpool's alley. But in terms of the game itself, like, it wasn't completely terrible, but it was definitely very mediocre and nothing special. And nothing too hard about any of the trophies. Some of them I thought I was going to have a little bit trouble with, like banking a 300 hit combo. Turns out there's a area in one of the missions where you can kind of like stand back behind a pillar and the enemies won't come towards you, and you can easily get this. Like, I think at the time I was done with my combo, I had over 400. It's a Trap one was pretty tough. It took me probably about 30 minutes to do, but wasn't too bad. And then Cold Blooded for combo an entire wave on a gold tier challenge map. These were the 3 that I was most worried about, and as you can see, they were the last 3 I got before the plat. So, but overall, it didn't turn out too bad. I think it only took me like 3 tries or so to get this one, and then everything else pretty straightforward. Ultra Violence difficulty, for the most part, isn't too bad, except for the last level, which seems to be a theme on a lot of these Marvel games. Is you usually have to beat the game on the hardest difficulty, which for the most part isn't too bad, but then the very last level of the game is like usually a pretty big difficulty spike. So it took me quite a while to beat the very last mission, more specifically the final battle on Ultra Violence difficulty. And there aren't very many checkpoints either. It's not very generous in terms of that. So next is Tomb Raider DLC, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Every month you get to hear me complain about it, and surprise, this is no different. But the good thing about this is this was the very last DLC, hopefully, planned for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Usually there are 5 trophies for each challenge tomb, but with this one, since if this one just had 5 DLC trophies like all the others, then it would put the trophy list at 99 trophies. So I guess to be nice, they added a 6th trophy, which was just for completing all content missions and receive this Tunic of the Shorn one. So this was a 6th trophy for this DLC list, and like I said, I automatically got this one once I completed the side mission because I had done all the other ones. So overall, again, not a very good tomb, kind of boring, but it does hopefully end all the Shadow of the Tomb Raider DLC. There has been some speculation about an 8th tomb. There have been polls online where there's one poll where it basically just asked what was your favorite DLC tomb, and there was an 8th option with just nothing there. And then also in the main menu of the game, if you go to the challenge tombs, there's an 8th spot that says coming soon, but there's been no announcement or anything about it. So I'm hoping that's nothing, and I'm hoping I don't have to go back to the game, but we'll see. If I do, at least none of the tombs have taken that long or been super challenging at all. So, alright, next is the highlight of April, and I got the platinum for Killzone Shadowfall, and I got the last DLC trophy I needed, which was finishing the campaign elite mode. So elite mode is the same as hard difficulty. However, there are no in-mission checkpoints, so you have to beat the entire mission without dying. And also with elite mode, you only have 3 lives for the entire game, spanning I think it was 10 missions. However, there is a little workaround to that. If you die, then if you just hit pause and quit to the main menu or close the game application completely, then it won't count against you as long as you don't wait long enough for it to start back up. And then also, once you, like, if you start a new mission and you can go back to the main menu and not be penalized and start back up at the beginning of that mission. So if you want, you can quit out and make a backup save after each mission. That's what I did, just to be safe. But I did get the platinum and finally 100% Killzone Shadowfall, and it was pretty challenging overall. Elite mode, there are some spots where it's just pretty challenging and pretty tough. There are some glitches where you'll just randomly die, and I talked to another person who had pretty much the same exact glitch happen in the very last mission where you just randomly die out of nowhere. But yeah, one of my prouder completions, definitely. It was the very first game I played and bought on PS4. I think I talked about this last month. So it was nice to go back and finish this once and for all. So next is Borderlands. Platinum and 100%. I think I did this entire game all of last month. Shout out to one of my friends, close friends, Tyler. Well, first off, congratulations to him. Earlier this month, he got engaged, so very happy for him. But also thank you to him. He got the game for me when I was back in my hometown visiting in April. I went over to his apartment to hang out, and he's a big Borderlands fan, so he bought Borderlands, and then he also bought a copy for me for us to play together. So, and Borderlands is pretty decent fun when you're playing co-op, but overall, I'm not a huge fan of Borderlands. I just think overall it's pretty much subpar in every way possible. There's not much of a story. The gameplay is pretty mediocre. It's considered like a looter shooter. However, none of the loot matters in the game. Like pretty much 98% of what you find in the game is worthless and you just sell. So, and then the DLC was also pretty bad. The last DLC I did was the Arena DLC, the Mad Moxie DLC, where you have to complete the 3 small arenas and the 3 large arenas, or coliseums, I guess. And shout out to Pricey, he and I did that together. So it definitely didn't make it easier per se, just because we had some OP weapons. Also, thank you to him, because I'll touch upon that in a second, but he dropped me some OP weapons that made the game, it made it easier, but it made it more fun to me. And like I said, I'll explain that in a second. But we did the arenas together, so it went by a little bit quicker. And thankfully, we didn't really have experienced much in terms of crashes or being disconnected like a lot of other people have. Like, there have been people who I heard they would get to like the last wave or the second to last wave of one of the large arenas, which is there's 20 rounds and 5 waves each, so there's a total of 100 rounds. So they would get to like the 98th or 99th or 100th, and then their game would crash or they would get disconnected. And thankfully, the only disconnection we experienced was, I think, on our very last large Coliseum, and it was only like the 3rd wave. So we definitely got lucky in terms of that, but we did end up getting it done. It took a little while, but it took about, I think, like an hour and a half or so for each large arena. But so like I said, shout out to him for dropping me some OP weapons, because one of my biggest complaints about Borderlands is the progression system is really bad in this game, in my opinion. You don't level up very quickly, and like I mentioned earlier with the loot system, like most of the time when you find loot, it just isn't very helpful to you, so you just end up selling it. And let's see, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so there's a whole bunch of like missions, obviously side missions, stuff you have to do, and it gives you a recommended level. So even if you are the recommended level, or even like one above, then you're still gonna have somewhat of a tough time going through the missions, because like they just throw a whole bunch of enemies at you, and even if the enemies are the same level as you or a level below you, like it still takes tons of ammo, and it takes a long time to kill just one enemy. So most of the missions and areas just take super long to get through, just because you're wasting so much ammo trying to kill one enemy, and then there's a whole bunch of enemies you have to kill. So then there are a lot of parts in the game where even if you're the recommended level, or even 1 or 2 above it, then you're still dying numerous times, because you're getting shot at from so many different directions, and it's so hard to kill one enemy. Not hard, but takes a long time. So you end up dying, and luckily if you die and get back to the point, like it doesn't like respawn the enemies. The enemies will have the same amount of health. Their shield, if they had one, will have regenerated. But so that part's good, but still it just takes a long time to get through stuff. So he dropped me an OP shield, basically, where it was basically an infinite shield where I just couldn't die, and then as well as a shotgun that I was pretty much able to one-shot any enemy, even if I was level 1 and they were level 60. So that's not something I usually do to get through games. And like I said before, it did make the game super easy, but that is not why I did it. I did it because for me it made the game more fun. Like I just explained, the progression system to me is really poor in the game, and I just feel like playing through the game is such a chore. Whereas when I had the shield and the weapon, I was able to get through the game at a much faster pace, and it just made the game so much more fun to me. I've never really enjoyed playing Borderlands until I had the shield and weapon, and then I actually didn't really mind playing it, and like I had a lot more fun with it. So that's just me, and that is why I did that. So going through here, nothing really noteworthy. I did all the DLC as well as the plat, so the game's 100%. As you can see here, discovering Trash Coast, I leveled up to 33, trophy level 33, so that's kind of cool. And the DLC in this game is also really bad. You got this general secret armory DLC, which was pretty bad and unnecessarily grindy, just like all of the other ones. I don't really remember much of what I had to do in that one, besides just completing all the side missions, which is the only DLC you had to do that for. And I think that was the main thing for that one. I don't think there was anything particularly super grindy about that one, just had to do all the missions. Next was, alright, so this DLC was a pain in the ass. The Claptrap DLC. And pretty much the entire trophy list for this, not the entire one, but most of it is related to RNG drops from Claptrap. So these Claptraps that you have to kill, they drop, what do they drop? They drop like motherboards and CPUs or something. They drop parts all the time that you need to collect for some missions, but then also they have a very small chance of dropping panties, fish in a bag, pizza, bobbleheads. You'll see some of the others when I get to those trophies, but they just have these super RNG, small percentage RNG drops, and it just took me multiple days of idling this DLC in a spot where a whole bunch of these Claptraps will kind of kill themselves in the very last mission. So then every once in a while you can pop out of your hiding spot, go and pick up the items that they drop, and then go back and just hope that they drop what you needed. And for the most, all the other stuff I needed didn't take super long, still took quite a while, but the 15 pizzas here is what took me forever. It was the last thing I needed, and like I said, it took me multiple days of just idling the game to get all the drops I needed, and I was definitely super excited once I finally finished and was able to move on. So then moving on to this fucking game, Human Fall Flat. This is one of my least favorite games I've ever played. I finished it last year. I bought it with a friend because it was on sale. He really wanted to play it. You can play it in co-op, so I was like, fine, whatever. I bought it so I could play with him. We played through the game, and he was really excited for it. I was like, whatever. I hated it pretty much immediately. He was like, yeah, this was a mistake. This isn't very good. But he's not a trophy hunter or anything. But we did quite a few of the trophies together because he's like, a few free trophies, why not? So we did that, finished off the game, deleted it. Earlier in April, they released a free update with a free level with these trophies. Thankfully, like I just said, it was free. I didn't have to buy anything, but just the thought of re-downloading the game and having to play through it and get reaccustomed to the super shitty physics and mechanics of the game was awful. But I did it. This one right here, climbed the clock tower in 40 seconds in dark. Took me probably 45 minutes to an hour of just going for this trophy. And then thankfully these last two trophies were easy. This one was just for completing the level and then completing it without moving any planks that are barring doors, which wasn't very hard. So thankfully nothing was too challenging about it, but to do all three trophies and just to complete the level probably took me about 2 hours. So next is South Park: The Stick of Truth Platinum. I started this game during the summer when I was in a trophy competition with one of my buddies, Tara, from Discord server. We were racing to get to, I don't even remember, I think it was trophy level 30. And this was one of the games I started because it's a really good game. It's a lot of fun. It's hilarious. I do like this game better than Fractured Butthole. And I played this game on PS4 back in October of 2017. Yeah. And I bought the PS3 version so I could play through it again and get the trophies again. So I started the game last summer and just now got around to finishing it because... So I actually played this game while I was idling the Borderlands Claptrap RNG drops. And the reason it's a pretty short game and easy and straightforward. The reason I didn't complete it when I did was because, let's see, making everyone your friend in South Park. It's a missable trophy. So the guide that I was following at the time to make sure I didn't miss anyone, part of it was cut off. So I missed one friend. So I had to thankfully I had a save that wasn't, it was still kind of far back, but it wasn't at the very beginning. I had made some progress, and it's a pretty short game overall, so it didn't take me too long to do it. You can see the first trophy I got when I went back to it was April 15th, and then I got the platinum on April 16th. So it didn't take me that long at all, but it just having to go back through most of the game and redoing a lot of the friends and stuff just kind of got me down and unmotivated to go back to it. So I figured while I was letting Borderlands AFK on my PS4, I'd go back and finish this on PS3. So then oil cans, bobbleheads, 3D glasses were the other R&D drops. Those ones didn't take me nearly as long. The 25 oil cans took quite a while, but the pizza's the one that I just could not get drops for. So a lot more Borderlands, a lot of Borderlands. Like I said, I think there's like 91 trophies or 81 trophies total, and I got all of them in the month of April. So next are 2 trophies for Sniper Elite 3, and earn one of every ribbon in competitive multiplayer. It's one of the online trophies, which, while it's not that hard to get, you do have to find people to play or boost with. And so I saw a session on PSNP for this game, and someone in one of my other Discord servers I saw was in the session. So I tagged him. I was like, "Oh, you need this done too?" He's like, "Yeah, I do. Like, do you want to join the session?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I didn't know that they were going to be starting and doing this like right away. But thankfully, I had a little bit of free time before I had to go. I think I had a tennis match, but I was able to just barely get everything done, and then I had to like go as soon as we were done. So shout out to a whole bunch of random people for helping me with that, and I was able to attain rank 11 while I was along the way. Some more Killzone trophies. So completing the campaign on any difficulty without dying isn't as hard as you'd think, because once you beat a mission, each mission is broken up into like a few subparts essentially, and at the main menu, like once you've beaten a mission, you can scroll through to each submission and it'll tell you how many deaths you had, how many of the collectibles you found, and basically all you had to do was go to each subsection that you didn't have a death and just replay that subsection. So I was able to just play through the game normally and then just go through and play certain subsections of missions back and get this trophy, which was really nice. Nothing else is really that bad. Just completing some multiplayer trophies, win 50 co-op games, which was nice to finally get that done. That was part of the Intercept DLC, the co-op DLC, and this one took quite a while. Some people do it solo, but it can be pretty difficult and take a long time for one game to do that. I did some with 2 people, which was a mixed bag. Sometimes you'd complete it in like 7 or 8 minutes, and some others you'd finish in about 20 minutes. And then I did most of this with 3 other people, which is kind of the sweet spot. We were able to consistently beat it in about 7 or 8 minutes. I think our record was like 6.5 minutes or so. Here's the beginning of Borderlands. Here's some more Killzone. As I mentioned in the last video, there's a lot of online stuff you have to do. And oh, perfect. The very first trophy I earned in April was max out all upgradable abilities, which is the grindiest trophy in the game, and this is probably the reason why a lot of people don't really have the plat. As you can see, it's just a 2.02% people have it, and it's because there are a lot of abilities and it takes quite a while to upgrade some of them. Like some of them you have to do 500 of certain, like revive 500 teammates, kill 300 enemies through shields, kill 300 people with support drones or something like that. So it takes a long time. And when the game first came out, it was theorized to take about 100 hours to do this alone. But thankfully, I think it was shortly after the game released, they released a patch update where you can create your own war zone and play against bots, and you can do everything against bots. So that made it much quicker and easier. But it still probably took me close to 40 hours to not only do this, but to do all of the online and all of the co-op trophies in Killzone Shadowfall. So yeah, that is it for this month. Again, sorry it took so long to upload, but it does feel nice to get this done and talk on the mic again. I've just had a lot going on right now. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more prompt when the May update video comes out at the beginning of June. So yeah, as always, feel free to comment below if you have any suggestions for how to make these better. I've had some good suggestions so far. Some of them are a little bit out of the scope of what I would like to, of my initial planning of this video series, but it was still a really cool idea and maybe something I can implement in the future as like a supplementary video. But yeah, feel free to let me know what you think, and until next time, guys, Pyzilla out.